The air on an unassuming Tuesday morning often carries a particular texture, a blend of lingering night chill and the nascent warmth of a sun just beginning its ascent. For Elara, this specific Tuesday began much like countless others. The soft, persistent hum of the city was already a low thrum beneath her window, a familiar symphony of distant traffic and the rustle of leaves in the small park across the street. Her alarm clock, a steadfast digital sentinel, chimed precisely at 7 o'clock, its gentle melody a daily cue for the slow, unfolding ritual of her morning. She stretched, a long, deliberate arch of her back, feeling the familiar creak of her muscles. The scent of faint vanilla, a residual note from the candle she'd lit the previous evening, still clung to the fabric of her bedsheets. Her apartment, a cozy space nestled on the third floor of an old brick building, was a testament to quiet order. Books stacked neatly on shelves, a single, thriving fern on the windowsill, and the muted tones of a landscape painting above her small dining table. Each object held its place, a small universe of predictable arrangement. The muted grey light of dawn filtered through her slightly sheer curtains, painting soft stripes across the wooden floorboards, a sight she had seen thousands of times. The distant clang of a garbage truck, the faint scent of baking bread from a nearby cafe, these were the sensory anchors of her predictable urban existence. After a quick shower, the steam momentarily blurring the bathroom mirror and leaving a faint clean smell of soap in the air, she made her way to the kitchen. The ritual continued. The precise measure of coffee grounds, a dark, rich aroma filling the small space as the water began its low gurgle in the percolator, the familiar clink of her favorite ceramic mug against the counter. She would often stand by the window as she drank her coffee, its warmth seeping into her hands, watching the early commuters below, their faces a blur of purposeful movement, each person a tiny, distinct story in the vast human narrative. It was a moment of quiet observation, a brief pause before she herself joined the currents of the city. Her commute to the library, where she worked as an archivist, was a well-worn path, a sequence of steps she could perform almost without conscious thought. A brisk walk to the bus stop 2 blocks away, the 15-minute ride, and then another short walk to the imposing stone edifice of the city's central archives. Her days there were filled with the hushed reverence of old books, the delicate rustle of aged paper, and the quiet satisfaction of meticulously cataloguing the past. It was a life of calm, of order, of very few surprises. This morning, however, a subtle shift occurred, a barely perceptible ripple in the fabric of her routine. As she reached for her keys on the small wooden table by the door, her gaze drifted to a forgotten bookmark tucked beneath a stack of unopened mail. It was an old, faded postcard depicting a lighthouse against a stormy sea, its colours softened by time, a souvenir from a childhood trip to the coast. A momentary wave of nostalgia washed over her, a fleeting memory of salty air on her face, the distant cry of gulls, and the thrilling roar of crashing waves against ancient rocks. She picked it up, tracing the worn edges with her thumb, a small smile playing on her lips, lost for perhaps 15 or 20 seconds in the quiet reverie. This tiny, unscripted detour, a mere matter of seconds, nudged her timing ever so slightly off its accustomed rhythm, a barely perceptible butterfly wing flap in the intricate machinery of her morning. She closed the door, the familiar click echoing in the quiet hallway, its sound just a fraction of a second later than usual. As she descended the 3 flights of stairs, her hand gliding over the smooth, cool wood of the banister, she felt a peculiar lightness, a sense of quiet contentment that sometimes accompanied these small, unexpected moments of reflection. The street air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and the first faint notes of exhaust fumes as the city truly awoke. She turned the corner onto Elm Street, her usual pace a steady, measured stride, her sensible walking shoes making soft, rhythmic taps on the pavement. The bus stop bench, usually occupied by a scattering of early risers, a student with a backpack, an elderly woman with a canvas bag, a businessman engrossed in his phone, was empty. A faint shiver of unease, then quickly dismissed. Perhaps she was just early today, or perhaps everyone else had already left. But as she glanced down the street, her heart gave a small, almost imperceptible lurch, a tiny flutter against her ribs. There, in the distance, was the familiar blue and white livery of her usual number 17 bus, its engine a low rumble, its brake lights flashing a vivid red as it pulled away from the stop. It was moving, undeniably, irrevocably, away. A sensation of mild surprise, almost disbelief, washed over her. She watched it recede, a growing speck against the urban landscape, its departure carrying with it her usual 15-minute window of quiet reading before her workday began. The faint smell of diesel lingered in the air where it had been, a ghost of its presence, a missed bus. Such a mundane, inconsequential event, one that happens to countless people every single day. Most would simply sigh, perhaps grumble under their breath, and wait for the next one. And indeed, Ilara felt that familiar ripple of minor frustration, a fleeting irritation. The digital sign at the bus stop confirmed it. The next bus would arrive in another 20 minutes, pushing her arrival at the library a little later than she preferred, disrupting the quiet efficiency of her morning. A slight inconvenience, nothing more, or so it seemed. The sun, now a little higher, cast longer shadows, and she felt a vague sense of being out of sync. Instead of waiting, a sudden, unbidden impulse urged her to walk. The library was a little over an hour's brisk walk from her apartment. It was a beautiful morning after all, the sky a clear, pale blue, the sun already warming the pavement, inviting her onward. A walk would clear her head, stretch her legs, and perhaps offer a fresh perspective on the day. This decision, seemingly a spontaneous act of minor rebellion against her disrupted routine, was another subtle deviation from her expected path, a second, larger butterfly wing flap echoing the first. She felt a quiet surge of independence, a small joy in choosing a different way. Her usual walking route, when she did choose to walk, took her along busier avenues, past storefronts and bustling cafes. But today, driven by a desire for quiet, for a moment of peace, she decided to cut through the older, tree-lined residential streets, a path she rarely took, preferring the predictability of her usual route. The houses here were grander, older, with sprawling gardens overflowing with late spring blooms and intricate wrought iron fences that spoke of bygone eras. The air was noticeably fresher here, perfumed with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass, a welcome contrast to the city's exhaust fumes. The city's general hum was softened, replaced by the persistent chirping of birds and the distant, joyful laughter of children playing in a hidden park. As she walked, lost in the quiet rhythm of her steps, the soft crunch of gravel beneath her shoes, her attention was drawn to a small, independent bookstore she had never noticed before. It was tucked away on a quiet corner, almost hidden by an ancient oak tree, its brick facade softened by climbing ivy. Its window display was a riot of colour and intriguing titles, a stark contrast to the sterile mainstream displays of chain stores. A handwritten sign in elegant script in the window announced a rare book sale, promising forgotten treasures and literary delights. Elara, a lifelong lover of literature, felt an undeniable pull, a magnetic force she couldn't ignore. She rarely indulged in impulsive purchases, preferring careful planning, but the allure of a hidden gem, especially a book, was too strong to resist. The thought of finding an unexpected story, a voice from the past, was intoxicating. She stepped inside, the faint, comforting scent of old paper, dust, and leather immediately enveloping her, a familiar aroma she associated with discovery and quiet contemplation. A sanctuary. The store was a labyrinth of towering shelves, each creaking under the weight of countless stories, some ancient, some more recent. It was quiet, save for the soft rustle of pages being turned in a distant corner, and the distant murmur of a voice, perhaps a radio, from the back. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air, giving the whole place a dreamlike quality. As she browsed, her fingers trailing lightly over the spines of forgotten authors, the titles whispering promises of adventure and knowledge, she heard a soft thud. A stack of books, precariously balanced on a high, wobbly shelf in a nearby aisle, had toppled over, sending a cascade of volumes onto the carpeted floor. Without thinking, her instinct to help overriding her usual quiet reserve, she moved towards the sound, bending down to gather the scattered volumes, their pages splayed open like fallen birds. As she knelt, another person emerged from around the corner, also bending to assist, their movements mirroring hers. Their hands brushed as they both reached for the same leather-bound tome, its cover embossed with a faded gold crest. "Oh, excuse me?" A voice, warm and deep, murmured, a gentle chuckle accompanying the words. Elara looked up. Standing before her was a man with kind, intelligent eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. His hair was a distinguished silver, neatly combed, and he wore a tweed jacket that somehow perfectly fit the ambiance of the bookstore, smelling faintly of pipe tobacco and old paper. He introduced himself as Arthur, the owner of the shop, and thanked her for her help, his voice resonating with genuine appreciation. What followed was a conversation that flowed effortlessly, born of shared apologies and a mutual love for books. They spoke of forgotten poets whose verses still held power, obscure historical texts that illuminated lost worlds, and the enduring magic of storytelling itself. Arthur, it turned out, was not just a bookseller, but also a retired history professor, whose passion for ancient civilizations was infectious. He spoke with such vivid enthusiasm, detailing the intricacies of long-lost cultures, the daily lives of people thousands of years ago, the rise and fall of empires, that Elara found herself completely captivated, forgetting her schedule, her destination, everything but the moment. The clock on the wall, a charming antique with Roman numerals, ticked on, unnoticed. Her planned 15-minute browse stretched into an hour, then nearly 2. The library, her archival duties, all faded into the background, replaced by the unexpected joy of this connection, this sudden, vibrant intellectual spark. Arthur, sensing her genuine interest, the depth of her knowledge, and the quiet passion in her eyes, eventually offered her a position. He was looking for someone with a background in archiving to help him catalogue his vast personal collection, a treasure trove of rare manuscripts and historical documents that he kept in a private study above the shop, a collection he'd spent a lifetime accumulating. The pay was modest, he admitted, but the work was fascinating and the hours flexible, allowing for deep, uninterrupted dives into history. Ilara, who had felt a growing, unspoken dissatisfaction with the routine and often solitary nature of her library work, the sense that she was merely preserving rather than discovering, felt a thrill of possibility she hadn't experienced in years. The offer was entirely unexpected, a sudden, vibrant splash of colour in her otherwise carefully ordered life. It was a chance to immerse herself in history, to work with tangible relics of the past in a more intimate, less bureaucratic setting, a chance to truly bring stories to life. She accepted, almost without hesitation, a decision that would indeed profoundly alter the trajectory of her life. This chance encounter, sparked by a missed bus and an impulsive walk, led to a new career path, a deep and enriching friendship with Arthur, and eventually, through his extensive network of academic contacts, to opportunities she could never have imagined within the staid walls of the public library. She would go on to contribute to significant historical projects, travel to distant archives across continents, and even author a well-received book on ancient trade routes, a topic Arthur had first ignited her interest in during that very first conversation. Her life, once a predictable stream, had become a winding river, flowing into new, exciting landscapes. Years later, reflecting on that pivotal Tuesday morning, Ilara would often muse on the intricate chain of events. Had she not lingered over the postcard, lost in a childhood memory? Had the bus arrived on schedule? Had she not felt that sudden, almost defiant urge to walk instead of wait? Had she not chosen that particular quiet residential street? Had she not been drawn by the bookstore's unassuming window? Had she not been in the exact spot to help with the fallen books? Would her life have unfolded so differently? Each step, each minor deviation, each fleeting impulse seemed to lead inexorably to the next, culminating in an outcome that felt both utterly accidental and profoundly destined. It was as if an invisible hand had guided her, gently but firmly, along a specific, intricate path. It begs a fundamental question, doesn't it? Was Ilara's missed bus truly a random occurrence? A mere ripple in the grand ocean of chance? A fleeting moment of pure unpredictability? Or was it, in fact, an inevitable, predetermined step in a far grander, invisible sequence of events? A subtle nudge from the universe guiding her precisely to where she was always meant to be? A necessary component of a larger, pre-written script? For most of us, such an event is simply a coincidence, a delightful or frustrating happenstance that adds flavor to the unpredictability of life. We often attribute these moments to luck, good or bad, or to the capricious whims of fate, believing in the genuine existence of chance. But what if the very concept of randomness is an illusion, a convenient label we apply to events whose causes are simply too complex or numerous for us to perceive? What if, from the instant the universe flared into being, some 13.8 billion years ago, every single particle, every interaction, every thought, every choice was set into motion along a preordained trajectory, like an unimaginably intricate and vast clockwork mechanism, winding down from its initial impulse? Imagine a universe where the past, present, and future are not separate, flowing moments, but rather a single, immutable tapestry, woven with threads stretching from the Big Bang to the farthest reaches of time. In this view, Ilara's decision to pick up the postcard, the exact moment the bus departed, her impulse to walk, the toppling books, and her subsequent conversation with Arthur were not a series of independent chance happenings. Instead, they were all interconnected, each event a necessary consequence of the one that came before it, an unbroken chain stretching back to the very first moments of existence. Every atom in her body, every neuron firing in her brain, every external force acting upon her was simply following a path already laid out. This perspective challenges our deeply ingrained understanding of how the world works, inviting us to peer behind the curtain of apparent chance and consider a universe where every single event, no matter how trivial or monumental, is an essential, fixed piece of a cosmic blueprint. It suggests that even the most unexpected detours, the most surprising encounters, and the most life-altering decisions might simply be the unfolding of a script that was, in essence, written long ago, playing out with perfect, unyielding precision. The story of Elara, her missed bus, the unexpected bookstore, and the life-altering encounter feels like a cascade of pure chance, a series of tiny, independent events, each seemingly a roll of cosmic dice, culminating in a profound change. But what if those dice were never truly rolled? What if every single one of those seemingly random moments, the precise timing of her hesitation, the exact trajectory of the falling books, the specific moment Arthur decided to restock that shelf, was not just probable, but absolutely, utterly inevitable? This is the profound and perhaps unsettling premise of a universe without randomness. Imagine, if you will, the very instant of the Big Bang, approximately 13.8 billion years ago, not as an explosion in empty space, but as the origin point of space and time themselves, a moment of unimaginable density and energy. At that infinitesimally small, almost incomprehensible point, the universe began its expansion. In a deterministic view, every single fundamental particle, the quarks, the electrons, the neutrinos, and all the other building blocks of existence, came into being with an absolutely fixed, precise position and an equally precise momentum. Position, in this context, simply means where it was in space, its exact coordinates. Momentum refers to its velocity, how fast it was moving, and in precisely what direction. It's an intricate dance of initial conditions, set with an accuracy that defies human comprehension. Consider the sheer scale of this initial setup. Not just a handful of particles, but every single particle that would ever exist in the entire cosmos, from the smallest dust mote to the grandest galaxy cluster. Each of these countless particles, an unfathomable number, had its destiny encoded in that very first instant. There was no wiggle room, no margin for error, no possibility for a slight deviation. If one single quark had been even a nanometer to the left, or its speed had been infinitesimally faster, the entire subsequent history of the universe would have unfolded differently. The stars might not have formed, galaxies might not have spiraled, and life, as we know it, would certainly not have emerged. From this singular, perfectly defined starting point, the universe began to unfold like an unimaginably complex, yet perfectly predictable machine. Think of it as a vast cosmic clockwork. Every gear, every spring, every lever, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, was designed to move in a specific way, at a specific time, driving the next piece of the mechanism. There is no independent action, no spontaneous event. Every single occurrence, from the grandest cosmic ballet to the most minute subatomic interaction, is simply the inevitable consequence of what came before it. It's a chain reaction of causes and effects, stretching unbroken from the Big Bang to this very second, and indeed, continuing endlessly into the future. let's take a closer look at what this means for the universe we observe around us. Billions of years ago, vast clouds of hydrogen and helium, the first elements forged in the Big Bang, began to coalesce under the force of gravity. In a deterministic universe, the exact distribution of these gases, their precise densities, and their exact velocities were already set. Therefore, the formation of the first stars, their specific sizes and luminosities, the timing of their births and deaths, were all predetermined. When these first colossal stars exploded in spectacular supernovae, scattering heavier elements across the nascent cosmos, the precise locations and quantities of these elements were also fixed. This cosmic dust then became the building blocks for new stars, new planets, and eventually, the very atoms that compose you and me. Consider our own solar system, for instance. The gravitational collapse of a giant molecular cloud, approximately 4.6 billion years ago, led to the formation of the Sun and its orbiting planets. The specific size and composition of that initial cloud, the exact distribution of mass within it, and the subtle gravitational tugs from nearby stellar nurseries all contributed to the precise trajectory and formation of each planet. The Earth's exact distance from the Sun, its tilt, its rotational speed, and the presence of its protective atmosphere, all factors critical for life, would not be accidental outcomes. Instead, they would be the necessary results of those initial conditions, playing out over eons, each step meticulously following from the last. This deterministic perspective extends even to the most minute details of our world. The intricate dance of tectonic plates causing continents to drift, mountains to rise, and oceans to form is not a series of random geological events. Instead, it is the predictable outcome of the Earth's internal heat, the viscosity of its mantle, and the precise stresses and strains accumulated over millions of years, all stemming from the planet's initial formation. Volcanic eruptions, often perceived as sudden and unpredictable, would likewise be the inevitable result of specific pressures building up in magma chambers, dictated by the precise geological history of that particular region. Even the processes of life itself, from the simplest single-celled organism to the most complex human brain, would be part of this grand predetermined script. The evolution of species, often attributed to random genetic mutations and natural selection, would, in this view, be a series of inevitable steps. Each mutation, rather than being truly random, would be the predictable chemical outcome of specific environmental factors interacting with precise cellular processes. The selection by nature would similarly be an unavoidable consequence of an organism's predetermined traits interacting with its predetermined environment. The growth of a tree, the beating of a heart, the firing of a neuron. All complex biological mechanisms, yes, but fundamentally reducible to chemical and physical interactions, each governed by unyielding laws, each following a path already laid out. This means that true randomness, as we intuitively understand it, an event without a prior cause, or an outcome that could genuinely have gone another way, simply does not exist. What we perceive as random, such as the flip of a coin landing on heads or tails, or the unpredictable path of a falling leaf, is merely a reflection of our incomplete knowledge. If we knew the exact force applied to the coin, the precise air currents, the tiny imperfections on its surface, and the exact gravitational pull at every point, we could, in theory, predict its outcome with absolute certainty. The apparent randomness is an illusion born from the immense complexity and the sheer volume of variables involved, far too many for any human mind to track. So when Ilara missed her bus, leading her down an unfamiliar street to that hidden bookstore. It wasn't a matter of chance. Her momentary distraction, the particular angle of the sunlight, the specific configuration of air molecules that carried a certain scent, the exact neural firing patterns in her brain that triggered a nostalgic memory. Every single one of these elements would have been the unavoidable consequence of countless prior events. The bus's departure, the car that briefly obscured her view, the microscopic dust motes dancing in the air. All were precisely where they were meant to be, doing precisely what they were meant to do, dictated by the unbroken chain of cause and effect stretching back to the universe's very beginning. It's a breathtakingly intricate vision of reality, one where the entire cosmic drama, from the formation of the first galaxies to the smallest ripple on a pond, is already written, already performed, just waiting for us to experience its unfolding. The universe, in this view, is not improvising. It is executing a symphony whose score was completed billions of years ago. Every note, every crescendo, every pause is exactly as it was meant to be. This means that if we could somehow rewind time to the Big Bang and press play again, the entire history of the cosmos, down to the most minute detail, would repeat itself exactly without a single deviation. There are no alternative timelines, no forks in the road, only the single predetermined path. This concept, known as classical determinism, paints a picture of a universe that is fundamentally orderly, predictable, and devoid of genuine uncertainty at its core. It suggests that all events are necessitated by antecedent causes, and that our present state of affairs is the only possible outcome given the history of the universe. The vastness of space, the complexity of life, the seemingly chaotic energy of a storm, all are merely expressions of these underlying unalterable laws, unfolding with relentless precision. It is a universe where what if becomes a meaningless question, because what is was always the only possible answer. We have just explored a universe where every event, from the grand cosmic dance of galaxies to the precise flicker of a single atom, is an inevitable consequence of what came before. In this perfectly ordered cosmos, randomness is merely a reflection of our limited understanding, a veil over the intricate clockwork mechanism that began ticking at the Big Bang. But now, let's bring this profound idea closer to home, to the very core of our human experience, our thoughts, our feelings, and perhaps most crucially, our choices. Imagine, if you will, the extraordinary complexity of the human brain. Within the confines of your skull resides an astonishing network of approximately 86 billion neurons, each one a tiny, electrically active cell. These neurons are interconnected by trillions of synapses, forming a labyrinthine highway of electrochemical signals. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every memory you recall, every decision you make, is accompanied by a specific pattern of electrical impulses firing in chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters, bridging the gaps between these neurons. This intricate ballet of biological machinery is undeniably a physical process, governed by the very same laws of physics and chemistry that dictate the movement of planets or the formation of crystals. Now, if the universe operates as a deterministic system, where every particle's trajectory is set from the outset, then the particles that make up your brain and the complex interactions between them must also be subject to this grand, predetermined script. This leads us to a truly unsettling question. If the firing of every neuron, the release of every neurotransmitter, and the formation of every neural pathway are simply the inevitable outcomes of prior physical states, then are your thoughts, your emotions, and indeed your decisions truly your own? Or are they merely the unfolding consequences of a chain of cause and effect stretching back to the dawn of time? Consider the moment Ilara paused, lost in a fleeting memory of a childhood game, causing her to miss her usual bus. From a deterministic perspective, that memory wasn't a random flicker of the mind. It was the inevitable result of specific neural patterns, triggered by a confluence of internal and external stimuli, perhaps a particular scent in the air, a subtle shift in light, or a specific sequence of thoughts that had just occurred. Her subsequent choice to walk down an unfamiliar street was not an act of free will, but the next step in a causal chain, influenced by her current mood, her physical energy levels, the perceived time constraint, and countless other factors that had already been set in motion. Every step she took, every turn she made, every observation she registered was merely the next predetermined frame in the cosmic film. This perspective suggests that our deeply ingrained sense of agency, the feeling that we, San, are the authors of our own actions, might be a compelling yet elaborate illusion. We experience the world, we deliberate, we weigh options, we feel the surge of conviction as we make a choice. This internal monologue, this wrestling with possibilities, feels incredibly real and personal. We might spend hours agonizing over a significant decision, a career change, a move to a new city, a difficult conversation with a loved one. During these moments, we feel undeniably like we are actively shaping our future, bending the arc of our lives through sheer force of will. Yet, from a deterministic viewpoint, this entire process of deliberation, this internal debate, is itself just a series of electrochemical events occurring in the brain. The arguments for and against a particular course of action, the emotional responses they trigger, the eventual decision that emerges, all of it could be seen as the necessary output of the brain's current state, a state that was itself determined by all preceding states. It's like a supercomputer processing an incredibly complex algorithm. The output is not chosen by the computer in any meaningful sense, but is the inevitable result of its programming and inputs. Our feeling of choice, in this light, becomes a sophisticated internal simulation, a profound subjective experience that plays out without true alternative paths. Think about the simple act of choosing what to eat for dinner. You might ponder between pasta or salad. You recall past experiences, the taste of one versus the other, your current cravings, perhaps a vague sense of health consciousness. All these elements, memories, desires, learned associations, are physically encoded in your brain. When you finally reach for the salad, was that a truly free choice? Or was it the inevitable outcome of the complex interplay of your current physiological state, your past dietary habits, the recent advertising you saw, and the specific neural patterns that culminated in that action? If we could rewind the universe to the exact moment before you made your decision, with every atom, every photon, every neural impulse in precisely the same state, a deterministic universe insists you would always choose the salad again. There would be no other possible outcome. This idea can be profoundly unsettling because it challenges one of the most fundamental tenets of human experience, our personal autonomy. We base so much of our self-worth, our identity, and our sense of purpose on the belief that we are free agents, capable of steering our own course. The thought that our actions, our triumphs, our failures are merely the playing out of a pre-written script can feel disempowering, even meaningless. It begs the question, if every thought, every feeling, every decision is already fixed? What is the point of striving, of dreaming, of aspiring? What is the meaning of personal growth or self-improvement if the improved self was always destined to emerge? Even the very act of questioning free will, this very discourse we are having, could be seen as a predetermined event within this grand cosmic scheme. The curiosity that sparks such philosophical inquiry, the logical pathways our minds follow to explore these concepts, the conclusions we might draw, all of these mental processes would be, from a deterministic standpoint, nothing more than the inevitable unfolding of the physical universe, including the physical processes of our brains. The illusion of choice, if it is one, is incredibly convincing. It is woven so deeply into the fabric of our consciousness that it feels like an undeniable truth, a core aspect of what it means to be human. Yet, the concept of a deterministic universe invites us to peel back that layer of subjective experience and consider the underlying mechanisms. The scientific understanding of the brain often leans towards a physicalist view, where mental phenomena are seen as emergent properties of complex physical systems. Neuroscientific experiments have even shown that brain activity associated with a particular decision can be detected milliseconds before a person becomes consciously aware of having made that decision. While these studies are complex and hotly debated, they offer intriguing glimpses into the possibility that our subjective experience of making a choice might lag behind the actual neural computation that determines the outcome. This doesn't necessarily disprove free will entirely, as the definition of free will itself is a subject of intense philosophical debate, but it certainly adds weight to the idea that our conscious agency might not be as spontaneous or independent as it feels. So if we live in a deterministic universe, where every particle's path is set, then the intricate dance of electrochemical signals in your brain, culminating in what you perceive as a choice, is also part of that grand unfolding sequence. The feeling of weighing options, the internal debate, the moment of decision, these are all real experiences, but in this framework, they are the experience garfacious of a predetermined process playing out. The sensation of agency, that I am making this choice, is a powerful and persistent one, an echo of a will that, under scrutiny, might turn out to be an echo of something else entirely, the universe itself, unfurling its ancient and unchangeable script. If our universe truly operates without randomness, if every event, from the grand cosmic dance of galaxies to the precise flicker of a neuron in our brains, is the unavoidable consequence of what came before, then the implications extend far beyond abstract physics. They penetrate the very fabric of human society, challenging our deepest-seated beliefs about ourselves and our interactions. Imagine for a moment a world where this truth is not merely a philosophical hypothesis, but a universally accepted, undeniable reality. What then becomes of concepts we hold so dear and fundamental? What happens to guilt, to merit, to moral responsibility? Let's consider guilt. Typically, we understand guilt as a profound internal experience, a painful recognition that we could have chosen differently, that we should have acted otherwise, and that our free choice led to a negative outcome. A person feels the heavy weight of regret, a knot in the stomach, a persistent whisper of self-reproach. But if every single action, every word spoken, every decision made was predetermined from the Big Bang, an inevitable unfolding of a cosmic script, then the idea of having chosen differently becomes an illusion. The specific brain states, the environmental triggers, the genetic predispositions that led to a particular action were all set in motion long ago. The feeling of guilt itself, that wrenching emotional response, would then also be a predetermined neurological process, an intricate chemical dance in the brain that serves some evolutionary or social function, rather than evidence of a truly free moral failing. It's not that the feeling disappears, it's that its meaning shifts dramatically, transforming from a mark of personal failing into a complex, pre-programmed reaction within a fixed sequence of events. Similarly, the concept of merit, of earning praise or reward, undergoes a radical reinterpretation. We celebrate individuals for their achievements, the brilliant scientist who discovers a cure, the dedicated artist who creates a masterpiece, the compassionate leader who inspires change. We believe they deserve their recognition because of their hard work, their talent, their perseverance. All qualities we attribute to their conscious choices and efforts. Yet, if determinism holds, then the specific genetic makeup that gifted the scientist with extraordinary intellect, the environmental conditions that fostered the artist's creativity, the historical events that placed the leader in a position of influence, and even the very drive to work hard and persevere, are all consequences of prior causes. Their choices to dedicate themselves, to overcome obstacles, to spend countless hours refining their craft, were not truly free acts, but the inevitable outcomes of their unique, predetermined trajectories. The glowing feeling of pride, the societal accolades, the awarding of prizes, these become part of the predetermined response, a complex feedback loop designed to reinforce certain behaviors within the social machine, rather than a just reward for a truly autonomous effort. This deterministic lens fundamentally challenges the very notion of moral responsibility. If no one could have acted otherwise, how can society legitimately hold anyone accountable for their actions? Consider the foundation of our justice systems. They are built on the premise that individuals are autonomous agents capable of making choices, and therefore capable of deserving punishment for harmful choices, and deserving reward for beneficial ones. Take the example of a crime. We apprehend an individual, gather evidence, establish motive, and then, crucially, determine culpability. The entire process hinges on the idea that the accused chose to commit the act and could have chosen not to. If, however, the act was an inescapable consequence of the perpetrator's genetic predispositions, their upbringing, their neurochemistry, and the precise sequence of external stimuli leading up to that moment, a chain of cause and effect stretching back to the dawn of time, then the moral indignation, the righteous anger, and the concept of just deserts begin to crumble. The very purpose of punishment becomes ambiguous. Is it retribution, a way to balance the scales for a freely chosen wrong? In a deterministic universe, retribution loses its moral grounding. Is it deterrence, a way to prevent future transgressions? Perhaps. The threat of punishment, the fear of incarceration, the societal stigma associated with certain actions could all be seen as powerful, predetermined causes that influence the subsequent predetermined actions of individuals. A justice system, in this view, wouldn't be about judging free will, but rather about being a sophisticated, complex part of the universe's own deterministic mechanism. A set of predetermined societal responses designed to steer the collective human trajectory in certain directions. Even rehabilitation, which aims to change an individual's future behavior, could be interpreted as simply applying new predetermined inputs, therapy, education, skill building, to alter the subsequent predetermined outputs. The courtroom, with its earnest debates, its meticulous examination of evidence, its profound pronouncements, would then become a grand, elaborate play where every participant, the prosecutor, the defense, the judge, the jury, delivers their lines and makes their decisions precisely as dictated by the cosmic script. The arguments they present, the emotions they display, the verdicts they reach, would all be the inevitable unfolding of their brain states, their personal histories, and the information presented to them, all fixed since the universe began. This perspective also forces us to reevaluate personal accountability. We are constantly striving, setting goals, working towards self-improvement. We feel a sense of agency when we decide to learn a new skill, to exercise regularly, or to overcome a personal challenge. The narrative we tell ourselves is one of conscious effort and choice. But if our very motivation, our discipline, our resilience, and even the specific pathways our brains take to form these intentions are all predetermined, does it diminish their value? Does it sap our will to try? The paradox here is profound. Even the feeling of being motivated, the internal drive to strive for betterment, the moments of self-congratulation or self-reproach would themselves be integral parts of our predetermined experiential script. The inner voice that urges us forward or castigates us for perceived failings would be another predetermined echo of the universe's unfolding. Our struggles, our triumphs, our moments of doubt and clarity remain intensely real as subjective experiences, but their origin point shifts dramatically from autonomous choice to an intricate, inevitable dance of particles and forces. Our lives in this deterministic framework begin to resemble watching a pre-scripted film. Imagine sitting in a darkened theatre, utterly engrossed in a compelling drama. The plot twists and turns, characters make choices that lead to dramatic consequences, and you, the viewer, experience a full spectrum of emotions: suspense, joy, sorrow, anger. You might even find yourself whispering advice to the characters on screen, hoping they'll choose differently. Yet, intellectually, that every scene, every line of dialogue, every emotional beat was written long ago. The actors are merely performing their roles. The camera movements are precisely choreographed. The ending is already in the can. We are, in this analogy, both the actors on screen and the audience experiencing the unfolding story. We feel as though we are improvising, making spontaneous decisions, reacting in the moment. Yet every utterance, every gesture, every thought that forms in our minds was, in fact, written into the cosmic script since the very first moment of existence. The beauty and the tragedy, the heroism and the villainy, the mundane and the miraculous, all unfold before us with a sense of discovery, even though that discovery is merely the revelation of what was always destined to be. We are immersed in the narrative. We experience its highs and lows with genuine emotion, and the illusion of choice, of an open future, is so perfectly rendered that it feels utterly real. The sunlight streaming through the window, the subtle scent of rain on dry earth, the complex melody of a piece of music, the warmth of a loved one's hand. These sensory details are not diminished by their predetermination. They are simply the exquisite, inevitable manifestations of a universe that is playing out its single, unique, and unchangeable story. The challenge then is not to deny our experience, but to reconcile the profound reality of our subjective lives with the equally profound implication of an entirely fixed reality. This perspective doesn't strip life of its wonder. Instead, it reframes that wonder, transforming it from the marvel of individual agency into the awe-inspiring complexity of an entire universe unfolding its predetermined destiny in every single detail, from the grandest cosmic event to the most fleeting human thought. The intellectual journey into a universe devoid of true randomness, where every event, from the grand cosmic ballet to the subtlest flicker of thought, is an inevitable consequence of antecedent causes, can be profoundly unsettling. It challenges deeply held convictions about agency and purpose, suggesting that the intricate tapestry of our lives might be, at its core, an unfolding script. Yet, despite this compelling intellectual framework, there remains an undeniable, persistent truth: the human experience of living, moment by moment, within this seemingly predetermined reality. Our subjective world, the one we inhabit with every breath, every sensation, every emotion, continues to be vibrantly, intensely real. Consider for a moment the act of making a decision. Even if, from a purely deterministic perspective, the outcome of that decision was already sealed billions of years ago, the internal process leading up to it is a vivid, undeniable phenomenon. Imagine standing at a crossroads, not just a physical one, but a metaphorical one in life. Perhaps you are pondering a career change, a significant move to a new city, or even a simple choice like what book to read next. There is a palpable internal deliberation, a careful weighing of potential paths. You might envision different futures, project possible joys and sorrows, feel the pull of comfort versus the lure of the unknown. Your mind might sift through memories, compare past experiences, and evaluate perceived risks and rewards. This mental dance, this intricate internal simulation of possibilities, feels like an exercise in pure agency. The slight tension before committing to one path, the surge of anticipation, or the quiet sigh of relief after making a choice are not merely abstract concepts. They are visceral, felt experiences that shape our immediate reality. This profound sensation of choosing, this internal dialogue that gives rise to our actions, is central to our consciousness, regardless of whether it represents a true branching point in the universe or merely an elaborate internal unfolding of a predetermined sequence. This feeling extends far beyond mere decision-making, permeating every aspect of our existence. Take, for instance, the human experience of struggle. If every effort, every obstacle, every eventual success or failure is predetermined, does the struggle itself lose its meaning? For the individual enduring it, the answer is a resounding no. Imagine an athlete training for years, pushing their body to its absolute limits, enduring muscle fatigue, the burning sensation in their lungs, the relentless mental discipline required to wake before dawn, day after day. The aspiration, the grit, the sheer physical and mental exertion are acutely real. The taste of sweat, the throb of tired muscles, the sharp focus of their gaze during competition. These are not illusions. When they finally achieve their goal, the euphoria, the surge of adrenaline, the sense of accomplishment that washes over them is a profound, undeniable reality. Conversely, if they fall short, the sting of disappointment, the ache of regret, the quiet processing of that outcome are equally authentic and deeply felt. These experiences, whether they lead to triumph or setback, are etched into the very fabric of their being, shaping their understanding of themselves and the world. And what of joy? In a deterministic universe, is the radiant warmth of happiness merely a chemical reaction unfolding as pre-scripted? Perhaps, but the experience itself transcends any reductionist explanation. Consider the simple, profound joy of a sunset painting, the sky with fiery hues, the quiet contentment of a shared meal with loved ones, the pure, unadulterated delight of a child's laughter echoing through a room. These moments are filled with sensory richness, the soft glow of fading light, the comforting aroma of home-cooked food, the crisp sound of innocent mirth. They evoke powerful emotional responses, a sense of peace, belonging, wonder, or unburdened happiness. These feelings are not diminished by the intellectual understanding that their neurological correlates might be predetermined. The heart still swells, the smile still broadens, the warmth still spreads through the chest. The subjective experience of joy, with all its accompanying physical and emotional manifestations, remains a cornerstone of what it means to be alive, a vibrant thread in the tapestry of our consciousness. Conversely, sorrow, too, retains its profound, inescapable reality. If grief is a predetermined neurological process, does it lessen the crushing weight of loss? The answer, for anyone who has experienced it, is self-evidently no. The sudden void left by a loved one, the sharp pain of betrayal, the quiet despair of dashed hopes, these are not theoretical constructs. They manifest physically: a knot in the stomach, a tightening in the chest, the uncontrollable flow of tears, the restless nights, the pervasive sense of emptiness. The world can seem to lose its color, its sounds can become muted, and time can stretch interminably. These raw, visceral experiences of suffering are deeply personal and fundamentally real. They shape our perceptions, alter our priorities, and often lead to profound introspection and growth, even if that growth itself is part of the grand design. The agony of sorrow, in all its forms, is an integral component of the human condition, an experience that, regardless of its ultimate origin, feels entirely authentic and demands to be navigated. Our subjective reality, therefore, is not merely a superficial overlay on a fixed universe. It is the universe as we know it, the only way we can ever truly know it. It is a rich, complex tapestry woven from countless perceptions and emotions. The scent of rain on dry earth, the intricate patterns of frost on a window pane, the comforting weight of a familiar blanket, the distant murmur of city life, the subtle flavor of a forgotten memory triggered by a taste. These are the immediate, undeniable inputs that construct our daily existence. Every sensory detail, every fleeting emotion, every internal monologue contributes to this intricate web of consciousness. We cannot step outside of our own experience to perceive the universe purely as a deterministic machine. We can only ever experience it through our senses and our minds. This means that the intricate dance of electrochemical signals in our brains, which gives rise to the feeling of warmth, the pang of longing, the spark of an idea, is our reality. It is the only reality we truly inhabit, the only one we can directly interact with. This subjective reality, with its full spectrum of human feelings and perceptions, persists regardless of the underlying philosophical truth of predetermination. The existence of a cosmic script does not negate the powerful, undeniable experience of reading that script, of living out its scenes. The beauty of a sunrise is not diminished by the understanding that atmospheric conditions and planetary movements made it inevitable. The warmth of human connection is not lessened by the idea that the neural pathways facilitating empathy and affection were themselves predetermined. Our understanding of the universe, whether we view it as a clockwork mechanism or a realm of infinite possibilities, is always filtered through the lens of our own consciousness. This filter, this unique individual perspective, is the ultimate arbiter of our lived experience. It is within this deeply personal, subjectively rich reality that we find meaning, build connections, and navigate the intricate currents of existence. Even if the river of time flows along an unalterable course, our experience of floating on its surface, feeling its currents, seeing its banks, and reacting to its changes remains the fundamental truth of our journey. Imagine for a moment, after traversing the intricate pathways of a universe where every event is but a consequence of a prior cause, we arrive at a profound and perhaps startling realization. We have explored the notion that the serendipitous missed bus, the chance encounter in a bookstore, and the blossoming of a new career for someone like Alara might all be meticulously woven threads in an unimaginably vast tapestry whose design was set at the very instant of the Big Bang. But here lies a most curious twist, a central paradox that beckons our contemplation. What if our deeply ingrained, almost visceral belief in free will, our persistent drive to choose, to strive, to create, and to shape our own destinies, is itself an integral, predetermined part of this cosmic script? This isn't to say that the feeling of choice is false in our subjective experience, but rather that the very mechanism that generates this powerful sensation within our consciousness is as much a product of the universe's initial conditions as the gravitational pull between galaxies or the intricate dance of subatomic particles. Think of it like this. If the universe is indeed a grand self-unfolding narrative, then the characters within it, ourselves included, are not merely passive observers. We are the active, experiencing participants whose internal worlds, complete with desires, intentions, and the deeply felt process of decision-making, are precisely what bring the story to life. Our minds, these complex electrochemical engines, might be pre-programmed to generate the experience of weighing options, of feeling regret or triumph, because this sensation is essential for the script to unfold in the way it was always meant to. The neural pathways that ignite when we consider a choice, the surge of emotion when we commit to a path, the quiet satisfaction or poignant disappointment that follows, all of these inner states could be predetermined, yet utterly authentic and necessary components of our existence. It's an elegant, almost poetic thought. The universe, in its grand design, not only dictates the external events, but also orchestrates the very internal experience of responding to them, including our conviction that we are choosing. This illusion of choice, if we can call it that, is not a flaw in our perception, but perhaps an inescapable condition of human consciousness. Consider how deeply embedded it is within us. From the moment we wake and decide what to wear, to the complex life decisions about career or relationships, we are constantly engaged in an internal dialogue of choice. Even when intellectually convinced by the arguments for determinism, the very next moment we find ourselves deciding to stand up, to speak, to reach for a glass of water. It is a feeling that is almost impossible to dislodge, like the persistent sensation of touch or the perception of color. Our brains are wired to simulate possibilities, to weigh potential outcomes, and to generate a sense of agency, even if the final decision is the inevitable consequence of a cascade of prior causes. This is not a weakness, but rather a fundamental aspect of how our complex minds interact with the world. Without this powerful illusion, perhaps the very fabric of our subjective reality would unravel. How would we navigate a world requiring constant adaptation and interaction if we did not experience ourselves as making choices? The feeling of agency, of being an active participant in our lives, might be a crucial, predetermined evolutionary adaptation, allowing for complex behaviors and social structures to emerge. It permits us to learn, to adapt, to plan, and to interact with profound intentionality. even if that intentionality itself is part of the unfolding cosmic plan. We are, in a sense, living out a script that requires us to believe we are writing it ourselves, moment by precious moment. And it is precisely this experience, this powerful and unwavering illusion of choice, that gives profound meaning to our existence. If we are merely watching a film whose script is already written, does that diminish the beauty of its cinematography, the depth of its characters, or the emotional impact of its story? Not at all. The meaning we derive from life does not solely stem from the freedom of our choices, but from the experience of making them, of living through their consequences, and of feeling the full spectrum of human emotions. The arduous journey of struggle, the exhilarating feeling of joy that washes over us, the quiet strength found in perseverance, the crushing weight of sorrow that teaches compassion, the warmth of human connection, the scent of rain on dry earth, the taste of a cherished meal, the sound of a loved one's laughter. These are not diminished by the idea of predetermination. They are, in fact, the very substance of our reality. Ilara, as she discovered her passion for history, as she connected with Arthur, as she poured her heart into writing, experienced every single one of these moments with genuine intensity. Her struggles were real, her triumphs deeply felt, her connections profoundly meaningful. The intellectual understanding that these events were perhaps inevitable did not, and could not, negate the vivid, personal, and undeniable truth of her lived experience. Our consciousness, with its capacity for wonder, empathy, and profound subjective experience, becomes the stage upon which this predetermined drama unfolds. It is through this lens that we perceive beauty, understand suffering, and seek connection. Our individual lives, then, are not merely sequences of events, but rich, complex narratives, each unique in its unfolding, yet all part of the grander universal story. The meaning we find is not in escaping the script, but in embracing the role we have been given, and in experiencing it with every fiber of our being. So, let us conclude by embracing this fascinating paradox: a universe entirely fixed, yet endlessly experienced. The profound wonder lies not in the possibility of an alternative path, but in the intricate beauty of the one path that exists, unfolding before us with perfect, inevitable precision. Imagine the sheer cosmic elegance of a system so complete, so interconnected, that every star, every atom, every thought, every feeling, every single event from the Big Bang to the furthest reaches of time is a necessary and perfect consequence of what came before. There is a breathtaking grandeur in this idea, a sense of awe in contemplating a universe that operates with such flawless, continuous logic. Our role, then, shifts from that of a struggling scriptwriter trying to conjure a story to that of an enraptured audience, and indeed, a vital character within a masterpiece already written. We may not be the authors of our destiny in the way we traditionally understand it, but we are the vital, conscious experiencers of it. We are the ones who bring the colors to life, who feel the textures, who hear the harmonies, and who embody the emotions of this unfolding narrative. The purpose, then, is not to exert a free choice that alters the cosmic flow, but to fully inhabit our roles, to appreciate the intricate dance of cause and effect, to marvel at the sheer elegance of existence, and to find beauty and meaning in the rich, subjective tapestry of our lives. Even if every breath we take, every thought we think, every emotion we feel, is an echo of a predetermined universal script, it is precisely this echo that constitutes our reality, our truth, and our profound connection to the grandest story ever told. We are living the unwritten script, every moment a fresh revelation, every experience a unique unfolding, and in that, there is an enduring wonder that transcends mere randomness or rigid fixity. It is the wonder of being in a universe that is both entirely certain and infinitely surprising in its lived experience.